It was created under the auspices of the parish council, but as a separate body to gather information, interview people, ask them what their needs were, their aspirations, their hopes, and create a new plan which might reflect the new needs of a different village with a different population.
It's so amazing that we can have that baby grow up in, my child, my daughter, grow up in the village with her family. Like my mum's just down the corner, grandparents and etc. And it's just like it's such an amazing thing for me to have for her. I speak to like my great uncles, my granddads, whatever, and they all grew up in this area. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm. It's like a footprint in a sense of like the next generation. It's just it's really, you know what I mean. It's really means a lot to me to have a place here. It's the next step in life for maybe getting on a mortgage, so you have time to save and obviously have a place of your own as well, and still be around the area, part of the community. I'm part of my family business now. I think like it's just beneficial that we've got like property that's affordable for young people. If these weren't available, I'd be elsewhere. I wouldn't be a part of that family business, which is such a special thing to me.
I would say, like for me, I probably wouldn't be in this area if it wasn't for social housing. I cannot afford to buy a place in this area, and that's been due to a lot of people moving in and our house prices soaring. And so, yeah, if it wasn't for social housing, I wouldn't be living here probably. Private rents can be £1,000, and my rent is over 700 now, and it's that probably is affordable, but it doesn't always feel very affordable. So I think that's a massive consideration. My daughter's 16, 17 this year. She might want to move out in the next few years, but we're in a massive housing crisis. Whether they will find somewhere to be able to rent that's affordable for them, that's, I would say, one of my main concerns if they want to stay in the area. Maylee is like, she wants to do art and things. There's massive influence of, artists in Cadwyth and Ruan. My son wants to probably do some sort of marine engineering. So they, somebody like him, all the fishermen need their boats mended during the winter, so that they want to be able to keep people like that in the community, because if they all leave and move away, is what we've seen, and the older generations move into this village, then it's going to be a problem. What will happen is if they build a lot of properties in one hit, suddenly they'll go, there's not a need for them. We're going to draft people in from further up the line, which I believe is what happened with this estate. You need to look at what we've got. It's like there needs to be a stock take of the parish. There's been a run of the older people's bungalows being sold off, and I just don't think that's acceptable. I think if they looked around the village, there are people that could move into those one-bedroom bungalows, and that would free up a two-bedroom house for a young family. I would suggest to anybody that is wanting to build houses that they build either one-person places or at least 3 or 4 bedroomed houses. I think you'll find there's a lot of single people in 2-bedroomed houses, and I think you'll find there's a lot of overcrowding in a 2-bedroomed house.
There's obviously a lack of social housing around at the moment. I live in the caravan, and one day I might like to find some halls again, and I know that it's very, very difficult, and with the cost of housing being what it is, anything that's on sale anywhere around here is too expensive for most of the locals on a normal wage, and it's always terrible to see places empty, especially in the winter.
I actually grew up in Cadgwith, but Cadgwith has now become so full of second homes that actually it's Ruan Minor where more of the community is. You've got all these people who have grown up in this village who want to stay in this village, and they aren't able to because the house prices are so massive. Yeah, I think it's really important that there is more rental properties for people so they can stay in the village when they're sort of young adults without having to buy a house when they might not be able to.
Cadgwith was more of a community when we moved here nearly 40 years ago, and since then a lot of the houses are empty, particularly in this terrace. When we moved into this terrace, all the houses but one were occupied, and mostly by elderly Cornish people, and now, except for the one on the end, they're all holiday homes. We had a little community up here. That community's gone, that little bit within the community.
I think, when a home becomes an asset, that's what creates massive problems. We watch house prices rise and fall, but predominantly rise, especially in the time that I've been here. And we look at more and more communities shutting down because of homes that are used not just as a second home, but also as a renting out for a business. And they're homes, and home is so important to a community, that people are living in the communities, that they're living and going to school, and that's what creates a community.
Yeah, well, obviously from a selfish point of view, it's more houses means more people, potentially more customers. But I think it's also good for the community, so that some of the youngsters can actually stay in the village. I've sort of been here long enough now that I've seen kids go through the school, and they're now at sort of secondary school, or they're off at university, which is really nice to see. And a lot of them do then come back and they use the shop. I think from my perspective the big concern is infrastructure in terms of Wi-Fi and water, standing water, but also sewerage and that kind of thing, because I think already the drainage system here is pretty much at capacity, so I think that's a concern. And I know the field in question floods already anyway, so I think there have to be questions about that.
It's been a challenge in the hall. The hall is used throughout the community, actually. It's used for lots of different groups, and it's a really, really busy village hall, which with all our village halls in the area, this is actually the busiest that I know. They do so much through the week, which is fantastic.
The nursery provision is tricky here. I think Jane is doing a really good job. However, because of the Thursday market, there is no childcare that's provided on a Thursday. So when we moved back to the village, I was working and I just couldn't work on a Thursday. The two of us are both we both work full time, and so suddenly Thursday became a real issue just because there is no childcare provision. So we did look elsewhere at like Little Lizards and places like that which provide more wraparound care.
It's tricky. It's one that we've spoken about quite a lot, because the market is part of the whole, you know, and they need the market for the community. So it's really hard. The way that we've overcome it is some children that need the first day care come over to Mullion on Thursday, which works for them, but obviously we've not got a lot of space. So we're full now actually, so we can't take any more children on a Thursday. So the Thursday day has always been a bit tricky. It would be, in my eyes, it would be nice if we could find a space, maybe in the school. The school's really tight for space though, I believe, so it would be nice because then we could offer that first day care if parents needed it. But it's been tricky, it's been a challenging, it's been a question that every time we have a staff meeting it always pops up.
So I've got a daughter at the nursery and a son who's gone up into primary school. I think the biggest change that would make a difference to us is to have a setting that would be able to stay as it is at the end of the day. They have to tidy up after every single day. When it's great, we've got the village hall and we're very lucky to have it, but just to have somewhere that maybe had a bigger outside space for them and an area that, you know, they could really call their own and they could leave things behind and come back to them and start again the next day. So during certain times my son had to go to different nurseries, and one of the things that really stood out about those is they were on site with the school, but also it was so nice for me to be able to travel in, know that my child was going to the same place with the same setup, know that it was the same day in, day out. It created a sort of space of safety as well because it was within the school grounds.
So for us as a nursery, we feel it's really important to have the nursery here for the community because we are a feeder into the school. And the school is a very small school and they need that nursery to provide the children to carry on with the children that are going up into school in September and then on through the following years. So for us, being able to support the school as a nursery is crucial for the village. Working as a community, we do a lot within the community. We use a lot of the facilities, so we take the children to the park, we take them on local walks around the village. We try and go on different trips around the village that are all to do with the community. So just for example, this term or this topic for the next couple of weeks is about down on the farm. So we will go to local farm at the Lizard with the children as preschool children, small group, and then today, for example, which you just missed unfortunately, we've had a local farm bring little lambs in and chickens, so the children are really getting those community experiences, you know, of what we have in our village, and making the best for the children. And us being here and being able to use the hall is brilliant because there isn't anywhere else for us at the moment. It's been tricky because the hall's been really cold the last couple of years, but now with the help from the community, so we had lots of parents help us with funds, raising money, we've been able to have the hall refurbished. And they have done the roof, they've done insulation, they've put a new heating system in, which has enabled us then to be able to continue our provision, because last year it was so cold we nearly had to close early for Christmas because it was too cold in the hall. But it's made such a difference. We've come back after the summer holidays. You know, there's no mould or damp issue, the children are really happy, the parents are really happy, the staff are really happy because it's quite hard on staff as well, and the committee, we work really well with the committee, so the hall having the hall done has been amazing.
The playgroup does offer a breakfast club and after school club, but not for very long. So you can pick them up at 4:15. But obviously, if I'm working in Truro, I still need to leave at 3 o'clock, so it's not a full working day. So additional childcare provision would be really helpful for working parents. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'm not sure why everything was taken down. I assume that it was because of health and safety. But at the moment, there's hardly anything there for the kids to play on. So my kids at the moment don't want to go to the rec particularly. So I think that should be an absolute priority for the parish council at the moment. I know that they're working on it, and I know they've got to fundraise and things like that, but it's really important, and loads of parents have been saying to me, why is there nothing there?
And I think as well, the sport of the village is really important. So I happen to be the ladies captain of Cadgwith Gig Club. And I think the development of sports like that within the village is so important, because then you're bringing people from all walks of life down together as part of the community.
I like the fact that all ages mix together, and it's got quite a strong community where everyone looks out for each other, which again gives a sort of sense of freedom for the kids as well. Growing up, it's what I had growing up, where you can just sort of go and explore knowing that the whole community is looking out for you. So I think it is quite unique here, and really important actually in terms of quality of life.
I did raise this issue before because new houses don't have very big gardens, and traditionally houses in these villages, the ones that were put up in the 30s and 50s, had quite large usable gardens, and I think that is a shortfall these days.
I've always been a grower, but I've not actually had the experience of community of allotments, but it very much appeals to me. And having moved here a few years ago and got, as you can see, a very tiny little garden, it's I really would like to have a space to share with other people, that I can grow fruits and vegetables, swap ideas, swap plants, pots for seeds, whatever, and just generally it's just a nice thing to do, to maybe work with other people. It's good to be outside, obviously. It's nice. Everyone likes, a lot of people like to grow plants, vegetables, anything edible is always nice. It's just a very nice, a nice community thing to do, I think, and I'm hoping it really takes off.
In terms of our well-being, just being in nature, just getting outside, hearing the birds, being with the trees, being in the grass, being in flower meadows, being near the ocean, whatever it is, it's vital to our health and well-being. And our immune system, boosts our immune system. It's just being outside boosts our immune system. So yeah, it's so important that we have these spaces, and having community spaces, you then have the added benefit of being able to be with each other, working on projects together. Again, massive research being done in this field now, and it's super, super important. Yeah.
There is always a vacancy on the parish council, and I think at the moment there are two. I shan't be running again for parish council because I'm 75 and I've had enough of it. which will mean there'll be 3 vacancies at very least at the next election, which is in May. And I would like to see that filled really by younger people and people that are affected by what the parish council do. At the moment, really with quite a lot of old men there, talking about stuff that really young people should be talking about and young people should be dealing with.
Over the years, obviously, we've seen the village grow and we've seen the village change, which is a good thing in some respects, but in others we've lost a lot of the little community hubs that we did have. So I think this is what this is all about, you know, for us all getting together and saying what it is that we do need. I've lived here now for coming up for 40 years and it's just brilliant.
I mean, I think this project, which was obviously instigated by the parish council, is very good because it's given everybody a chance to have their say. And I know there are an awful lot of moans about various things, but they're always topped off by people saying how much they love living here. So I think that sort of says it all, but it does give a great opportunity for everybody to have their say, and I hope the parish council is able to take forward a lot of the suggestions that have been made.
Everyone on the parish council works really hard. I struggled as a working parent to be on the parish council because it's not just about the monthly meetings, it's actually about all the committees that you're part of. And part of being on the parish council committee meant that I had to be on, I was on a couple of other committees, including the Recreation Ground Committee. And that just takes up so much time. It's amazing what the volunteers actually achieve in terms of the pavilion and the rec and all the events that's run there, but it is a lot of work. And so I think it would be brilliant to have younger people on the parish council as well as older people, like a whole mixture of people and skills and expertise and opinions. But it's tricky because actually it does require a lot of work.
So I would like to see more people participate in events. Sometimes, you know, volunteers spend a lot of time and effort putting things on for the community and to keep people to have things to do in the locality without having to go to Helston or even Truro. And then quite often you find they're not that well supported. So I think I'd like to feel that people, especially new people coming in, would actually integrate and make a point of trying to go to events and support them.
COVID has had an impact on what people want to do, and people have become, have said, you know, have withdrawn and don't necessarily want to be part of a community like that. They just want to, I think a lot of people went into survival mode and are possibly still in survival mode of, you know, dealing with things.